Hi, welcome back to another episode of Chris Dyer's Creative Friends, the super awesome podcast show where me, your artist friend Chris Dyer, talks to all his amazing creative friends. Today, I'm at the Chapel of Sacred Mirrors in Wappingers Falls, New York. I came here to witness the opening of Entheon Museum by my friends Alex and Allyson Grey. And while I was here, I got to catch up with my good old friend Jennifer Ingram, who's a super cool art curator and part of the visionary art scene for 20 years. Try for Team Represent. So this is going to be a deep dive into the history of visionary art, music festivals and the art scene, and so much more. So I hope you enjoy. Blessings!
While the world is burning, got to make amends. Walk on the sunny side with a positive lens. Talks about passion between the women and the men. Chris Dyer and his creative friends. Darling, ooh, ooh, ooh.
All right, Jen Ingram.
Hi.
Woo, my good old friend. I'm capturing you out here. I actually interviewed you before, 2008, for my documentary, but the sound sucked and I couldn't use those clips, so I couldn't include that in my documentary. But now I get you
Awesome.
in the super awesome podcast show. How you doing?
I'm really good, actually. I'm midstream, kind of taking a small break before a couple of really big shows coming up at the end of the month, and enjoying nature and friends and getting a recharge right now. So I feel
Nice.
really good.
What events you're doing soon?
Sonic Bloom in Colorado, and also the MAPS Psychedelic Sciences. We're doing a very large show.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Sounds exciting.
Super.
Wishing you the best there.
Thank you.
So, here and now, where are we?
We are at the Chapel of Sacred Mirrors, Cosm, in Wappinger Falls in New York. And it's amazing, and everyone needs to come.
Why are we here? What happened yesterday?
Well, it was the soft opening of Entheon.
That was the soft?
I think it was soft. I think they want to do something. I think there's rolling in, I think. I don't know, though. I feel like it was sort of soft. I mean, it was mega, but it was still like...
They cut a ribbon.
They did cut a ribbon, yes.
Yeah.
They did cut a ribbon.
They had Chris Dyer on stage on the panel. For me, that's hard. I'm just joking.
Yeah, that was a hard opening. Yeah, heart opening.
Heart opening. I like that.
Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, it was really full circle. I felt because Roman and I and a lot of visionary artists made the trek for the opening in Chelsea, New York, in the city in 2004, I think it was, and it was a really big deal to be a part of, just knowing that that was going to come into this space.
Mm-hmm.
So that was just the beginning, and to see that materialize into this space was I don't know, a lifelong dream for me myself. So
How was those days of the visionary art scene? 2004, New York City.
it was very small, I felt, but growing quickly and attracting all the right people. And it seemed that we had this small intentional group that really liked to be around each other and really wanted to sort of come together to do whatever we could to change the world. So wherever it had to happen, whether if it was in the concrete jungle or in the woods, that's what we did.
Beautiful. How does it feel to come here so many years later, and now Cosm is 40 acres with Entheon, a giant building with projections outside and tons of people coming through because it's super cool?
It feels deserving, and it feels right. And it feels like some of the, all of this work for them, for us as a movement, that someone's listening, and that we are actually being heard, because now we have a place for that to be immortalized. So in a sense, I mean, this is a museum, it's here forever if we want it to be, and to know that it took, 20 years to manifest, I don't know, it's amazing. It feels really solid, like, oh, I made a solid career path to like support this vision, and to know that these are sort of our elders in this, and an example, and really like this could and shall be accepted in all major museums around the world.
It's ironic how it's not like there quite yet, but you gotta create that culture.
That's right.
What's the importance of Alex Grey becoming larger and larger as an artist for the visionary art scene, but in the world? Like, seems kind of like he's our representative,
right,
bringing it to the whole mainstream.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I feel like when I was in college at the university, at American University, if I was to ask some of my peers, like, have you heard of Alex Grey? Most people would say yes. Oh yeah, Tool. Yeah, I know Alex. Or, so he's sort of a world bridger within visionary culture, and he's an example, and he's really eloquent, and he's educated, and he's able to really capture all audiences, young and old. And I think that's super important for us, because it's given us the opportunity to see and to actually live out what he's been speaking about, because he's there sort of as open and willing to sort of help and guide, but also really live his true example. And that's so important, and he doesn't stray from that. Everything that he said he's going to do, he's doing it. And that is so important for us as a movement too, to be like, okay, because Alex isn't going to be around forever, but his legacy will. And that's so important for me in this movement, for sure. He's
leaving a lot of medicine behind.
That's right.
And he's breaking a strong path, almost a path so wide that, like other artists are just like, damn, I gotta like do more work to like keep up.
That's right.
So it's very inspiring. So for you, what's the meaning of visionary art? What's the official definition, or what's your definition?
That's a really great question. I feel like every artist that I have had the opportunity to work with is on a quest to sort of put some sort of other entity or spiritual path or some sort of otherworldly experience, but to be able to convey that on their canvas and be able to show somehow what it is that they're seeing, or something they want to see, and that is to see healing and change and something beautiful. So I guess for visionary art, my personal is it may sound cheesy, but community, and like having some sort of like tribe, and really tapping into like this other source. That's it.
Yeah. Beautiful. It seems though that even though visionary art is growing in popularity, especially in like, electronic music festivals and hippie communities, spiritual circles, still it's not very talked about in the mainstream. It's not very recognized, and it seems quite unappreciated in the world of museums and galleries. It's kind of like a little freak oddity on the side that really hasn't been like, hey, everybody, let's put this on TV and in the movies, because it's a really beautiful spiritual artistic record of the spiritual progress of humanity at an important time of evolution. It seems like almost like it's being hidden almost purposefully, though that's me getting all conspiracy theorists on it.
Right. I mean, I feel so. I mean, just in the last 20 years we have gone leaps and bounds, Chris. Like, I feel like there's so many artists that have crossed over and had the opportunity to be in big galleries. And I mean, the museum show in Mesa was massive and monumental, and I went to the opening for that and crying and being just like, whoa, we're getting there, it's crossing over. So I feel like it's definitely not there 100%, but we're way closer. And with the research and psychedelics, you know, and the legalization and more of that, I think it's only going to continue to grow. And they're going to, I think, and I would say they, but like the art world is only going to come at us because we actually have something that is, there's something to back it up. It's not just pretty colors. It's not just you know,
It's got meaning.
it has a ton of meaning. And I feel like they're going to be looking to that. Once they have these really intense mystical experiences, they're going to be like, oh, I saw that. Oh, that's what you guys were doing? Oh, now I'm ready. Like, and so they're going to want to capture that and be a part of that and have that in their spaces.
So you feel like the future of this movement is not something to doubt, but just to have patience with, for people to catch up with.
I do, but I also feel like there needs to be more professionalism, and it's something that I'm constantly grappling with within my own sort of. It's like, sure, we're in an event space in the middle of the jungle, and we're trying to have this, you know, museum-like show, but it's hilarious because we're using bamboo sticks and, you know, like everything feels very
Tribal.
Yeah, very guerrilla gallery style, but taking it really serious. And so, yeah.
We're gonna do it.
We're doing it.
Yeah.
We're doing it. So.
Nice, it's happening.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So Jen, let's get in a little bit of the roots. I know you for a long time. Do you remember more or less where we met?
I feel like we met at Harmony Festival in 2005, 4?
Something like that. I'm
Five?
not sure which one, but I was doing festivals with Satori Movement.
That's right.
And I went to Reggae on the River.
That's right.
I went to Seattle Hemp Fest.
That's right.
Harmony, and you were at all those festivals.
That's right. Yeah, we were sort of like crossing paths parallel, but we weren't synced at that point. That's right.
You were another dreadlock mama of the Humboldt County, NorCal area. And I knew you worked with art, but I wasn't even sure. I barely knew what visionary art was there. Like I knew by then, this 2005, so I knew what Alex Grey was, and I knew the vaults of Erowid. So I knew a handful of other spiritual visionary artists, but I didn't know any like events.
Yeah.
And then through these reggae festivals, I found that you're doing this Interdimensional Art Show, and I joined the first one in 2006, even though you were doing them before. And eventually I traveled to Seattle where you were living, 2008, and I met other visionary artists, and I was incredibly intimidated. Savvy and Heskin, and you met Dale there, and Aloria and Ishka, etc. And it was beautiful. A tipper performed for you. How many people performed? Like how many people went to that tipper show? Like
it was maybe 400.
400 people.
Max.
Yeah, which is crazy to hear today.
Totally.
I was very inspired, and the next year, 2009, I did the first Visionary Art Show in Canada, in Montreal, using their Interdimensional Art Show name. So Jen, tell us, what is the Interdimensional Art Show?
So it began in 2003, and it was definitely Roman Villagrana, the sort of co-founder of Tribe 13. It was sort of his vision of the party at the end of time, you know, to really like intentionalize all of these artists being interdependent, showing and showcasing what it is that they did, and us showing all of the crazy parts, the fashion, the music, but mainly our number one focus was on the art. And the music was sort of a sidebar of the show, and we really just, because everyone focuses on the music when you go to an event, and the artist is kind of kicked to the side, and we flipped it. And so when that first happened, I mean, we had Chris Cooksey, we had Martina Hoffman, Robert Venosa, Alex and Allyson Grey. I mean, so many people, Luke Brown, Carrie Thompson, everyone came, and Zavi drove his painting on the top roof of his car. Like, there's so many of us came together for the first time, meeting each other in this space. And Jay Fried was really, and really just kind of put all of our heart and soul and built this gallery in Seattle. And
Jay was the sponsor.
Jay, it was really him and Roman. And I was, at the time, like, I had 2 very small children. So I was like, Zion's in the sling, Naya's running around, the terrazzo floor was there. We put a full-page ad in Juxtapose magazine. Hands up, whatever works. We don't know maybe no one will come, maybe one person, maybe 50, we don't know. We had like 1,400 people through the door. It was so crazy. I'll remember standing and looking past, and the gallery was small in Seattle, very small. And just seeing a sea of heads, just everyone. And I thought, we did it. Like, okay, something's happening here. Because this is the first time that this had sort of been put, this style of art. Paul Loeffele, we had Paul Loeffele's piece. Like,
this is the first time in North America that visionary artists are brought together.
Yeah, of these people.
Yeah.
This group. And, Allison and Martina were the only women in the show. Mm-hmm. That was very interesting for me, because I'm like, where's all the ladies?
Aloria wasn't part of it yet?
Not in the first one, no.
Okay.
No. So it was, and that's when I really realized, like, I need to find my ladies. Like, who's doing this, and how am I gonna empower them too? Because it felt sort of like sausagey at the beginning. And it still is that way. It is sort of a boys' club, and I've worked really hard to give a platform for the ladies in the visionary scene.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So would you say like Seattle is the birthplace of North American visionary art, or is just that's where the first parties were thrown?
That in San Francisco, for sure. I think San Francisco was a major hub as well. They were doing Synergenesis, Carrie and all of them with the frog, I think it was called Frogwood, out in Mendocino Coast. There was, Delvin would come down. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, the Sunshine Coast was a hub. There was just so many little pockets of people creating these environments, and we all would come together, and then we'd spread out, and we'd come back together.
Right.
So I don't know if I'd say Seattle, but it was a great meeting point for sure.
Still like Festival Center, Burning Man Tribe.
Yeah, I mean, that was so in the beginning, so in the beginning for so many of us.
That's awesome. So what is Tribe 13?
So Tribe 13, I get this question a lot, and Roman really is the most perfect person to answer this question.
Who is Roman?
Roman is, again, the co-founder of Tribe 13. He's also the father of my 2 amazing children. And I just want to do a mini shout out
to your kids.
To my kids, Naya and Zion, and also a major backbone of Tribe 13 is Justin Hetty Monster. It's super important to give him a thanks, because he is a huge, huge reason why we are even still operating to the level. So Roman and I, we met. He was an artist. I wanted him to paint my van, my Volkswagen bus, in 1997. And shortly after, we became pregnant, and we started to travel, and I said, we're gonna need to figure out how we're gonna feed these kids, because we can't trade stickers for every meal. This isn't gonna work. So Tribe 13 kind of came together off of his original vision, and that was, there's 12 constellations, there's 12 tribes, there's 12 astrology, there's 12, 12, 12, and then I think the biggest
apostles.
Yeah, it was like this whole thing of like the round table, and then the center, number 13, was creation. And that's sort of what we always went by, is that when you didn't belong, or you didn't feel like you were in one of those certain sections, that you were invited to Tribe 13, because we're the misfits. We're the people who maybe someone didn't want to include, but you're included, believe it or not. So we just tried to provide that platform for everyone to be a part of.
Nice.
Yeah.
And recently you had the 20-year anniversary of these Tri-13 Interdimensional Art Shows,
That's
right?
right. Yeah.
Jay was there.
Jay was there.
Now that he's free again.
Yeah. Jay was there.
Big Galactic Gang supporter. Thank you, Jay.
Yeah,
we
for
love
sure. Roman was there. Roman came to the panel, but he has a new sort of smaller baby, so he sort of was facilitating that at home. But he was definitely there, and he was felt, and it was an amazing gathering, eye opener on a lot of levels, because I haven't really thrown my own or our own sort of event in a long time. Definitely rusty. Definitely, whoa, I don't remember doing all of that. That work was pretty substantial. But then also, too, still doing other events and trying to balance that. It was challenging for sure.
Yeah, but a nice reunion.
For sure.
With friends. I wish I would have made it. I was
know.
already booked in Denver, but you had Android there.
Yeah.
Savvy made it.
Yep.
Amanda Sage made it.
Autumn
Sky.
Yeah, Autumn Sky was there.
That was great.
It was really, really special for sure.
Aw, so nice. I wish I could have made it for sure. And also, Tri-13 at one point was also a gallery, right?
That's right. Yeah, in Seattle we opened our first one, then we shut that down. Eventually we moved to California to Ukiah, and we opened the doors January of 2010. We had that for around 4 years about, and it was a huge hub for visionary culture. We sort of was sister galleries with the Temple of Visions in LA, and kind of it was a nice sort of woodsy experience for people in the city that wanted to come out and really kind of catch the culture and the vibes. And it was in a impactful time. You know, we were in weed country, great wine, it was just a really, really powerful time at that particular moment. Maybe we were a little ahead of our time on some level sometimes, I thought, but it was what it is what it was, or it was what it is, and it was really, really special. Thanks to Patrick and Andrew O'Keefe for holding it down.
Alicia Keys.
Yeah, Alicia Keys. Yeah. There's so many not little, let me back that up. So many important characters who no way would that have ever happened without them. So really special. And Chris, you had a huge show there in 2011.
I loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was so special. You built a skateboard robot down the street. And
It was fun to have such a big gallery, to do a skateboard robot, to build ramps.
That's
with
right.
a skate shop. What's the name of who owned the
Freedom. And Justin Capri. Shout out.
And then we had we had so many artists who came.
That's
and
right.
And then we got VJing from Jonathan Singer.
That's right.
And it was just like a really good time, family reunion, still a scene building up. And I do also remember that was the time where we found that Robert Venosa died.
That's right.
And we went, that day you were preparing for Burning Man, I think for the first Fractal Nation.
That's right.
And you're like, I gotta take a day off because I need to smell the flowers of life a little bit and not just being working. And we went with Mark Henson to a lake and the kids, and we all just jumped in the
That's right.
lake to remember that we're alive. So very, very beautiful time. And thank you for having me over. It was great to do that show. So I believe, and I could be wrong, that you're the original curator and creator of visionary art galleries at festivals. Maybe art galleries at festivals in general. I don't know the history of music festivals and their relationship with visual galleries, but at least with visionary art, I believe you're the first one who brought galleries to Shambhala Festival in
That's correct.
Canada,
Yes.
and Gem and Jam, and what else? Envision, Boom,
Earth Dance.
Eclipse.
Well, Earth Dance, so I think that was our first. Chris Decker actually was a dear friend of Zavi's. They lived in Ashland at the time, or actually I think he was in San Francisco, but basically he was like, hey, I love what you guys are doing. I'm watching you. I see what's happening. Would you like to bring some live painters out to to Earth Dance. And I said, okay. So I asked Luke, he traveled all the way down from Canada, and I, put this huge, crazy lineup together. I had little bios printed and laminated on the inside, and we were given this. I said, okay, we'll do it. I'll schedule it. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm going to do this because I believe in this. Is what an opportunity. Paint live on stage. So Roman had been doing that before with Sound Tribe. So I was familiar with live painting on stage, but not to the level of like asking for a place to show the work. Like before, him and Chris Davidson and Jay Garcia, they would paint, but there wasn't a place for them to actually show their work. So I thought, all right, let's do this, but let me have like this little small area. Well, they gave us this red circus tent. They put us in the back dirt alley like crazy. It was so dusty. It was, I think it took me like 2 weeks to recover from that. This like construction light was in the center of the space. It was so hard to see any of the art. And we were so grateful. We were so grateful to have this opportunity. And so many people, we couldn't stop selling art on Sunday, Monday. People were like, no. We're like, no, we have to leave. We have to go. Like we've been here, where were you all weekend? No, just kidding. But like here, so we had to, and we kept meeting people, and then we got invited back, and then I was like, okay, we can do this again, but we need to be in the bowl. Like we need to be with the people. Like this was like the parking lot basically. And I love the parking lot. I love the lot scene, but I wanted us to kind of have like a little bit of an upgrade. And from there, we were invited to Shambhala in 2003 as well. And the very first time we did that, and I'm not exaggerating, it was me, Roman, David Huskin, I think one other person, and they gave us a rope, a hemp rope. And I hung all their originals on a hemp rope. No cover, no tarp, nothing.
Damn,
it was
just on the open air?
Open air.
Damn, it's like laundry.
It felt like that, and I would love to find a photograph from that because I was like, never again. But we did it. That was what we had. That was what we were given. And we built that up over the years. And so, yeah, and to see what it's evolved into, there's galleries all over the country now going. And
around the world.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like the Hungary, I don't know if you've ever been to a store in Hungary.
I haven't, but I've seen it's like 2 stories. That was always
like
my dream.
3 or 4 story temple that goes around and has sculptures in the middle. And like really nice, still Wookiee, but
But amazing.
Yeah. And permanent too.
Yeah.
Like they keep it and they build like every year. So you've done probably tons of festivals by now, all of them, if anything.
Yeah.
What's the blessings and what are the struggles and challenges of doing these galleries in middle of nowhere at electronic and hippie festivals?
So the number one blessing is depending on the amount of people. It's quality over quantity, regardless. The fact that you have, let's say you have 3,000 to 10,000 focused participants that are coming to this event who can come back all weekend long and see your work in this gallery that we've set up. You might have an opening in the city and you are happy if 400 people come that night. Okay? You are stoked. And then maybe they'll come for the closing. Maybe, if you're lucky. Maybe they'll look online. But when you've got 10,000 folks that volunteered, bought a ticket, and now you have this environment that they can come and feel safe and check this out, come back, leave, do whatever they want. And to have that experience, to see your work in that environment, I'll do that for the rest of my life. To know that that is an opportunity for people to get their hearts blown open. So that would be my blessing, I think, is to just know that there's this safe space that we've helped create where people can come and also be inspired and think, hey, I can do that. Because you might not feel that in a traditional gallery setting where you're like, oh, it's a little stale. Someone's like, I don't really look like that lady or that guy, or maybe, I don't know, it's going to close in 50 minutes. Like maybe you got there late. I don't know. But so this is an environment that is really welcoming and they want to be there and they want to see the work. So hardship, I would say sometimes not having the right budget to really, fund the artists who are included. I think that's my biggest hardship is I wish I could pay everyone everything that they needed to make it feasible for them to be there. Also, just the limitations of my own sort of like not having all of the proper material or a van or all these things, the challenges that come with like doing something really from the heart and just, I think it really comes down to like the budget.
Uh-huh.
And
you're showing up with 2 suitcases many times.
Sometimes, yes.
Yeah, or even 1.
Yeah, a backpack full of lights and being like, all right, I hope the artists bring what they're told me they're gonna bring.
Uh-huh.
That's really the truth,
Is there like a festival that's like your favorite that you've done throughout time, something that sticks out, or they're all special for different reasons?
That's a great question. I think my favorite, well, I have a few. I think one of my most favorites was in Australia at the Eclipse 2012.
That was awesome.
Shout out to Lisa and Marty for that. And I don't know, I think just a culmination of so many things and just the people that were there, and the space was gorgeous. We had these amazing Japanese artists who did the decor and just connecting with them and their sort of story, and the language barrier of all these international people coming together to create this space, and really working with a lot of people I'd never worked with, and just it all working out. And just the energy of the Eclipse, and I don't know, it was one of my career highlights for sure.
Nice. Happy I was part of it.
Yeah, exactly. 2013, I think Fractal Planet, we had an insane collection of art, and just, I don't know, peak moment, peak life experience. I think just the players who all put that together, and just knowing that that was possible.
Fractal Planet is in Burning Man?
Yeah, it was in Burning Man. We had the corner, we had Tipper, we had tons of international boom people came to sort of collaborate with us. We had, the South Africans came from Daniel Popper, like all these people, like just these mega creatives, and sort of like the best. And we just shared the most intentional thing we could possibly do. Even though it was temporary, it was really impactful.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So with curation, you gotta pick a lineup of artists. At the beginning, as you said, it was a small group of perhaps 10 artists.
Yeah.
Then it was 20, then 30. Now it's like hundreds, maybe even thousands of artists who want to be part of the visionary art movement. And you got to pick a handful for each event and festival. And sometimes they're your friends. Sometimes you got to leave people out.
Yep.
This is a spiritual movement, and you want to make everybody feel loved and included and part of this thing that we're doing together. Yet, you got budget limitations. You got space limitations. You got parameters. And I imagine you make yourself, I want to say enemies because that's a strong word, but like some people might be unhappy with you.
Oh, for sure.
What's your sensitivity as a Pisces to be in that position?
I mean, I guess I sort of chose this experience by being a curator. I also have softened quite a lot in the last few years, just because I feel we have about 1,000 artists on our small email list, just artists, not anyone else, right? I went through it recently in the last year and was like, whoa. I never thought in my living life that I would have access to 1,000 artists and actually know every single one of them and be able to be like, hey, I'm thinking about this show, you want to come? A lot of times though, Chris, I think with the choosing or the selection or the curation, these are applications. Anyone can apply. And if you don't apply, I may not know you're out there. So I always say apply and be really, impactful with your application. It's just such an important, don't send me dead links or, different things, because then I'm just like, let me find someone who actually knows how to fill this out. And I know that sounds sort of funny, but it's real. And I think too, with the selection process, I go with heart a lot too these days, really trying to figure out ways to like encourage this next round of visionary artists that maybe haven't painted live at a festival. Maybe if I don't give them a chance, they might stop painting and be like, this isn't for me. But if I, help encourage that that's a possibility for them and see, like, give them a couple chances, hey, maybe this will be their life path. I don't know. I'm not there to decide that. And so it's sort of important for the process to like be open to, what someone wants to share, because I might not like everything that I put in the show sometimes, but I also go with a whole picture. It's like an entire process instead of it just being, because if I didn't know if it was just the art and I didn't know if it was a man or a woman or, I don't know. And so I feel like if I'm just judging by the art, I do like to read people's stories. I like to really look at what they've created, what they're looking for, what they're trying to create, what's their long-term vision. Is this just for a free ticket? Is this really because they don't know what else to do? Like I'm open to all of those things, and that's sort of what visionary culture is about.
It'd be good to know the intention, because like some people just want to be cool. It's
That's
like,
right.
oh, I want to be cool and people look up to me, but I don't really care to do any spiritual work, and
That's
this
right.
just looks spiritual, but I just want to party and do drugs at a party.
Yeah, and I really sort of try to, I don't know, though, that everyone's,
How can you judge that?
yeah,
really?
we're all trying to be better or grow, I think. So it's been challenging, and because there's so many things, I also try to look at geographically, locally. It's important when you're going to another place. For example, like Gem and Jam, see a huge show and it's in Arizona and there's so many local Tucson artists, and I try to really think about, okay, I'm in your town. You live here. I want to make sure I highlight you because this is where you're at. And then that just grows, and they're going to bring their friends, and their friends are going to celebrate them, and just really try to, diversify within the local community also. It's so important. So.
Does the client who hires you for their event to curate ever have an influence? For example, does Tipper and team say like, oh, you must have these artists as part of the show, but we don't want these artists?
For sure.
Or is it like, just do what you think is best?
For sure. Yeah, especially in the beginning, it was a lot of like, because it was a lot smaller, people would definitely influence. Many, many, many times I'd get okay, so they're going to live paint, so you're going to need to put them in the gallery, and I'm like, whoa, I've never showed their work. I don't know how they navigate. Are they going to show up? Are they, like, what's their work ethic? Like, just because they're your friend, okay. And I have to sort of like navigate that, and that happens all the time because it's their event and I am a hired participant. So, I'm a contractor, so I have to like abide by those. I also do say sometimes, hey, this might, it's not exactly my favorite thing, but okay, I'll find or figure out a way to display them in a way that feels, ethically good to me, and then also the overall show experience. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Yeah.
You got to compromise.
That's right.
All jobs got compromise. Like when you get hired to do something, sometimes I don't agree with the client, but I want to make him happy.
That's right.
And also I'll flow with it. And I'll give my opinion sometimes too. And they're like, well, I don't care about your opinion. I still want it this way. It's like, all right, you're the one who's paying.
That's
so.
right. Yeah.
Do you ever feel like guilty or sad or go to bed feeling like, fuck, I just encouraged an artist, or people are mad at me because I didn't make him happy? Like is this something that impacts you emotionally, this job?
Yeah. I mean, I would say a few years ago, I would definitely get some like, emails of sort of distaste, like because they weren't included, or, oh, it's funny because I don't get that as much these days because there's so many shows, there's so many arts, if you didn't like exactly what I did, you can find another space that'll probably bring you on if you're good. And so I'm not the only one out there, luckily, to get that pressure. But Yeah, there's a few, I got a few kind of funky calls at some points or emails, and then I'd be like, all right, get on the Skype. Let's have a conversation. You think I'm an elitist and I'm only booking my friends? Well, this is all I got. There's apply. Yeah. You know, people attack, oh, you don't represent enough this or that. I'm like, they didn't apply. I can't, like, I got a million friends or people and artists, and if you don't apply, I don't know you're out there. And I really do look through all of the applications. There's hundreds of them.
When you look into these forms and applications, does sex matter to you? Like if they're boy or girl, or identify in a different way? Or you're just looking at the quality of art?
I don't really look to see if it's a man, a they, a woman, or I don't look at what that is. I really look at how great the art is, but I also do notice or know when I look at a website or an Instagram, okay, well, this person's identifying as a female, and I'm always trying to figure out a way to big up the females. That's so important to me. I think I've really stated that over and over and over. And, you know, we even did that. This is something that was a really big deal. We did it at Tipper and Friends last year, 2022. And we didn't announce it like that. I didn't want it to be a huge focus. These are the artists. I booked them. They happen to all be female. And, but that wasn't the huge, you know, it was a focus, but also in a different way. So we get there. I've got all these artists, you know, in the main area, the main bowl, and they're all set up. And I look over, and there's probably 30 other artists that weren't invited, that are renegade, which I bless your heart, renegade artists. But it was I cried. I was actually really sad because I felt like all this work we had done had sort of kind of just, it wasn't such a special thing. And I didn't know how to really convey that to all the renegade artists that were there in a way that they would understand. Because it's Tipper, like you're there celebrating your favorite artist and everybody's like, you know, being showcased in it. Why should it matter? Like, let's just, you know, let's paint, let's party. What's the deal? Like, so here, that was a very big challenge for me. So I spoke with my, you know, my organizers and said, hey, let's figure out a way so we can make everyone happy in this. And we made a huge change this year, and we opened it really far up and let everyone apply, and gave, you know, featured our artists, and then we gave other people a space to paint. And I think it worked really well. Not a ton of complaints, but it also, you know, it's a really tricky thing, because how can you tell someone not to be creative? And if they're an artist, they want to paint, I'm going to tell you, oh, you're not on the lineup.
Do you ever have to go out there and be like,
oh, yeah,
you're a renegade painter, you're not supposed to be painting, or maybe there should be like a open painter designated area?
Right. So we did that at Tipper this year, and it did work. It was super challenging. There's a couple people I had to shut down, and it's such a hard thing. It makes me cry kind of, because I'm like, who am I? You know, but I'm also like, hey, these artists trekked all this way. They created this experience for themselves. They took time off, whatever they're doing. Let's make them special. This is a big deal. This probably changed some of their lives forever. And if I don't give them that platform, that they are on this bill and they're booked and they're there, this space to be special, then, you know, you're not, I don't know. It's such a huge thing for me, but I also am like, I'm so conflicted. And you being an artist yourself, like, how do you, I don't want to turn anyone down, but I don't know. So yeah, having that open space, I think that's the answer. I did want to say one other thing though. I do look at the fact that there's a lot of things that are changing within visionary culture. A few years ago, I feel like we didn't have a lot of representation of, it seemed sort of, I should say, this is sort of a white experience, I think, can be. And now we have like so many different, it's becoming more diverse because we're reaching so many more people. And I don't know.
I don't think it's like purposefully like,
no.
Let's make this movement and let's only be this race. It's just, I guess like people started doing it, and now as it grows, other races could be like, oh, this resonates with me,
Right.
and then they get on. It's kind of like skateboarding.
Sure.
At the beginning, skateboarding was like a very white thing, and now there's tons of black skaters that are fucking crushing the whole
That's
scene.
right.
But at the beginning, they might have been like, hey, why are you skateboarding? That's only for this. Like all these limitations that we create ourselves,
Right.
but there's never was an intention of excluding. So it's open, and
Right.
if you're a good painter, you're a good painter,
That's right.
and it doesn't really matter. If anything, the whole vibe of the movement is, let's have all races come
That's right.
together.
100%.
Yeah, and sexes and sexual varieties.
That's right.
Actually, I didn't really even know many gay visionary painters to recently. I think Alex Polanco, I met him here at Cosm.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, you're like a gay visionary artist. And now there's like this whole tribe of North Carolina.
Yeah. Represent.
Gay
and they're-
visionaries.
And I love that. And I try to, be as include everyone. And I'm so happy. I'm so happy to have all, because before it just wasn't, it's not that it was not, no one was invited. It just wasn't there. And now
wasn't
it's
there.
there. So let's celebrate that.
Totally.
And I'm so excited. It's been really, really awesome to
That's
see the
awesome.
progression of, come on down, everybody.
Right. And yeah, once again, I commend you for your role. Sometimes I've had to be curator, like when I worked for Creation Skateboards, I had to curate who would get a graphic. And I knew some artist friends who wanted their skateboard graphic, and I was just like, I just don't think it's not even like you're not good enough. It's just not the vibe.
Right.
Because the skateboard brand that I'm curating has a certain vibe, and it has to resonate with skaters. And if I go too off my demographic that I'm trying to
You're right.
target, it won't sell, and it will flop, and the whole thing falls apart.
Right.
So I just gotta kind of like be smart. So I commend you on your role where you have to make hard choices and make some people unhappy sometimes, and hopefully everybody will be included at some point, and we take turns.
Yes.
And I myself, sometimes I'm like, I wish I got invited to Tipper and Friends, but then I'm like, well, let everybody else do that, and I'll do something else. I've been to so many shows, and what does it matter, The next year goes by, and everybody forgot who went to what.
That's what I'm saying. There's so many shows. And again, it really has to do with apply. I and myself and other people that are curating, if you don't apply, I have so many people, oh, you didn't. I'm like, I didn't see your application. Or you didn't hit me up.
Yeah.
Send me a text. Let me know you're out there. And I usually am pretty perceptive to that and being like, okay. There's a couple people hit me up for a bicycle day, and I was like, dude, come on down.
Yeah.
And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, this is awesome. I want you to be here. But I sometimes just don't know because I have so much on my plate. It's
Right.
not personal.
I think the older artists like myself are not used to applying, because back in the day, we were so few, we would
Yeah, you
get
just
invited.
know.
It's like, yo, we're having a jam. The same,
Sure.
the same old clan. Let's do this. Of course, you're in. Now that there's so many, I applied for my first festival this year. I applied for Secret Dreams because I like the music, and I like the other artists that are included there. So I filled up a form, and it's like, what festival have you done? Oh, I've done Boom
Sure.
and Rainbow Serpent and
everything.
And right away, Gavin hits me up. It's like, oh, awesome. Let's make this work out.
Yeah.
And so I'm doing that.
And and that is a true thing. I do have sort of like an original roster, but I also feel like too, it's like, yes, you have to be a little more picky, pick and choose what you're doing. You're Chris Dyer. Savi's out painting huge buildings. I can't get him to just come to anything. We've evolved so much.
We've all gone our own directions.
Exactly.
Too.
And that's okay too. That's amazing. That's what we've been working for.
Mm-hmm.
So I do feel like, some of the shows that we're traveling to, it's not that they're not important, because they're super important, but I do feel like it would be nice to have a legacy wall, or a wall that's like, hey, this is, my favorite example is we did the Mars One poster drop at Tipper a couple years ago, and everyone's in line. There's 1,000 people in line, and I thought, okay, I want to kind of just assess the vibe and see what's happening. And a couple of people were in line, and they're like, yeah, this looks just like the Apex Collective. Whoa. And I was cracking up, because I'm like, man, if we don't go out, all of you, and make these statements and come out, and that, hey, that's amazing. Look, these are Mars has to go out Apex, everybody has to keep moving.
It's
and
just a different scene.
That's right. It's changed so much, and
Right.
so that we have to,
So for those people who don't know what she just mentioned, Mars One is from Further, which are the original artists that created that style, and Apex came later with their own equation of that style.
Sure.
So it's kind of like ironic that because these OGs just stay in their basements doing crazy paintings and selling galleries, they don't go out to the festivals.
Right.
But the Apex do go out to a different place.
And when people kind of come into the scene, you have to remember too, that's what they think, that's what the scene is. And so we, as the old schoolers, we have to keep being, on the front lines to keep recreating that. Like, hey, this is super important. Or do we? Or maybe it's okay to pass it along, and pave the way. So have a little bit of both. And that's where we can, communicate about the importance of going back to school to get my art history degree and get my master's, and really trying to take and bump festival galleries and, traveling galleries into the next level. Because at first we were really just trying to have a place because we weren't being accepted into the white wall environment or into these traditional spaces. And we were like, screw it then, we'll just do our own, which works. And we love that, but we want it all. I think we need to be in all places for us to really push this movement along.
Well, in order for this movement to be respected as a proper art movement to be put in the museums and become part of history, I think it has to be recorded better.
Yes.
That's one of the intentions of this humble little podcast show, to capture fragments in time with the people who are part of the history.
Right.
And I would like to see more books and more people
Yes.
getting down in the professional avenues to say, like, this is who Further is, this
Right.
is who Apex is,
That's right.
this is who Chris Dyer is, this is who whatever other cartoony looking artist is. And, of course, let's pass it along. It's different times call for different generations to come and shine.
Right.
Like, Further is shining and making the big bucks in galleries. Awesome. They don't have to go out there and sleep in a tent.
That's
like
right.
The younger generations still have to go
Right, and pave the way.
earn their stripes
Yep,
and
that's right.
stuff. And, perhaps I also live a comfortable life. I don't want to go to festivals so much. And then the new generation of cartoony visionary artists go, and sometimes people will be like, oh, your art looks like this kid. And it's like, yeah, because he was my fan and now he's becoming big.
Totally.
And I just got to be like, chill out your ego,
That's right.
Chris.
That's
you
right.
don't own anything. You inspired people and now it's growing.
That's right.
But a part of me would like for it to be like recorded like, oh, like I
Right.
started this style like 10, 20 years ago. And now there's a whole branch of visionary art
That's
that's
right.
being created. It would mean a lot if, people knew their roots, but that's just my ego, and perhaps I should just not give a fuck and just do my thing and everyone else do their thing too.
Well, I think, and that's kind of why we're talking about this, is because we do think it's just important, more ways that we can get this information out in every facet, through podcasts, through a book, through research papers, through whatever, movies, documentaries, however.
Proper
and
visionary
really,
art documentary.
Yeah, like really just reiterating this conversation and having a place for all of the historical timeline to be outlined. That's when someone's going to say, oh, well, actually, this is Mars One, actually. That's not the Apex Collective. And thank God Mars was here to inspire the Apex Collective. And now look what the Apex Collective is doing for this next generation.
Yeah.
So like really just giving the knowledge and giving a place for that. So I think that's something that, I really want to be a part of and focusing on. However we can do that, I think we just have to keep conversing and really making it happen.
Well, you're going to school now. You're going to university. You're working on a master's, I believe?
Yeah, right now.
On what topic?
Art history, because I think it's super important to create a space for visionary art and culture, and I've really think it's important. I am on a sort of a sabbatical right this second due to some really large shows. I took some time off. It was a little challenging to go to school during the pandemic.
Where were you going?
In American University in DC, Washington, DC. I moved across the country in 2001 I'm since back in California, but I did a full semester and I have a little bit left to go, and it was amazing experience and also very challenging because a lot of my professors were like, wait, what are you doing? Even though they're very open and they let me in based off of my research. So it wasn't like I came out of nowhere. I think a lot of my professors were the same age as me, and the students that I went to school with, they'd never worked in a gallery or done a show or.
You were experienced.
Very, but in a different way, not in academia, but also in the field.
Right.
So,
and you're talking about an art movement that nobody has really recorded before.
And they might know Alex Grey, but that's it. And I tried to be like, well, it's sort of similar to like the Surrealists, but not really, or like this, or they're like, oh, the Visionary Art Museum in Baltimore, and I'm like, no. So it's really hard because there's just not a great way to showcase this movement yet.
Uh-huh.
So this Entheon is I feel like, okay, it's going to get.
We got a foot in the door with this.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This is just the beginning. And I feel like because this is here, it's going to give us this brand new platform to just push and really like show an example that this is sort of like, okay. Yeah, I don't know, just being inside of there, the inspiration, just the wallpaper and the floor and the this and all. I'm like, the details. So important. So
are you aiming at getting a master's?
Yeah.
And for that you have to write a thesis?
Yeah, you do, and it would be on the American. Well, so it's so hard because it's when you do America, you're dealing with the America. It's like Canada. Like it's not necessarily I'm an Americanist or something. They make you choose. Like it's so. I'm like, but wait.
You can't just say North America, Mexico, Canada, and United States.
You can, but particularly for that school. Okay, so that's sort of why I was in a place where I'm like, I don't know if I can just say that. Like we were inspired by so many people in Europe, so many people in Peru, so many. There's just it's international.
Visionary art is the art of the heart of the universe.
That's right.
That then springs out all around the world, and to just trying to conceal it in like, okay, this country without recognizing the resonance of the worldwide movement.
And also exactly. And also just the other applications or inspiration or whatever, different forms of communication. So yeah, it's been sort of, so I sort of put it on pause, and I've been working on my appraisal license so that I can appraise visionary art. And because that's something that is sort of lacking at the moment. I don't know, have you ever had any of your art like professionally appraised?
Not really. I just make up the prices from the top of my head.
But you also have receipts of things that have sold. So that is a proof of your, value that you've created for your work. So it's not necessarily, you're not making it up, you're basing it on what somebody gave you in exchange for this piece of art.
Right.
So there's, fair market value. There's all these different things. And so I've been really interested in sort of like, okay, if I don't get, into this like sort of thesis and all of this process, I want to at least figure out the way to place more value within this movement because people are buying your work, people are buying the art, and I want to be able to encourage more sales if I could give them more value for what it is that their investment is worth.
Well, thank you for investing time, money, effort to come and validate our humble little spiritual art movement. I hope you pull it off. And will be one of the professors that are out there, like Karianne Bade is another one. She was also part of the show, and she dips a foot in the visionary world, a foot in the lowbrow world. We got Ben Ridgway. He's also a professor of animation of University of San Francisco. And hope to convince him to get on the show one day, but he's kind of shy because visionary art is tied in with psychedelics the psychedelic experience. And it seems like when you want to be a professor, when you want to be in the world of the legit, universities and information, drugs shouldn't be part of it. But here you're bringing in a movement that involves quote unquote drugs or medicines. do you think that would disqualify you from bringing this movement of art to be validated? Like, does that get in the way, the fact that entheogens or psychedelics or medicines are
I
part
think
of it?
it did. I don't think it does anymore. I just don't see that blockage, the barrier. I think I'm just so excited for psychedelic sciences to come up in this 10,000 plus, person conference, and to be able to showcase and share with what everyone's been working on in the legalization and these different components. I feel like it's like the perfect storm. We've been working so hard and it's
Right.
like, so why wouldn't these places accept what we're doing? If you're going to accept that, like Michael Pollan and all these shows and all the, there's just so
How to
many.
Change Your Mind
Yeah.
is huge on
And
Netflix, and you can see why psychedelics is not the demon, it's actually healing, and why has it been kept down just because of the Babylon system
Yeah, it's like-
agenda.
So I feel like the more people that come out and take these ways to share and just keep going and pushing, because I don't think that's always been my super focus, but I know it's there, and I don't want to be scared of like that component of it, but I also know I think it's only going to grow. And I think that to be on the forefront of this movement and then also within academia, that's exciting. That's exciting, because they're going to be ready to ask these questions, and if some of us don't take that sort of path or role, then it just becomes, and it stays in this sort of flaky experience, and I'm
Right.
not.
We don't want to be a bunch of flaky,
No.
stoned out hippies. And
No.
I feel like the fact that visionary art has been taking so long, not so long, it's been like 15 years, maybe even 20, I guess 20 since your first Interdimensional Art shows. And it's grown a lot, and there's still lots of room for
That's right.
growth. But us, in that time, have also been growing
That's
as
right.
artists, and we've been learning how to talk about the movement,
That's right.
talk about psychedelics and our own personal experience. We've had time to make mistakes, learn
That's
from the
right.
mistakes, keep on growing. So then if one day we actually do have to hit the worldwide
That's right.
mainstream platforms, we're ready to do it in the most professional way possible.
I think so.
That brings healing for everybody and not just be like brushed to the side as some stupid thing. So with this whole thing where you're becoming more learned and studious and entering the world of galleries and museums, I gotta say, from a personal opinion, and you don't have to agree with this, but the world of galleries and museums seems very confusing and frustrating to me, because many times it's not about how good the work
I
is,
know.
but just like some people decide like, oh, well, this is the great new artist, and everybody gets hyped up, and then everyone's like, oh, well, then we all gotta buy it, and all the
Yeah.
collectors chase it, and sometimes the collectors don't even care about the work
No.
or even find it pretty. They just buy it because they're buying some kind of like status.
Right.
They're buying something they can invest and then flip later on. It's just like so not what I feel should or like is the real reason why somebody buys art. For me, if somebody buys art, it's like, this inspires me and touches my heart, even my mind, but it does something to my soul that I want to see it on the wall and relish in it. Not, okay, I'm buying this thing because I've been told by the official curators that this is the next new thing. So you're joining that world. I don't know if you agree with it or if you're against it, but if you feel there's room for improvement, will you have to play that game in order to Trojan horse into the system? And once you're in and respected, then try to change the equation to something of true essence and value?
Yeah, I think based off of sort of like integrating into Art Basel, in Miami, it's been such an amazing experience, like over the years, watching the progression of visionary culture sort of, scoot in there and sort of, we'll go to the big convention center and be like, why is this bag of popcorn in the corner 150 grand? And this person, just Mark Henson, dedicated his whole year to this painting that's this big. And you cry and you can't imagine, like, So yes, it's so intense, and how to integrate into that. I feel like we just have to keep pushing along, creating, if it's going to be there, I think it's just, we have to have a balance, because I do believe we have to integrate into both experiences, whether it's in an environment that's a festival sort of environment, or in the art world and these art fairs. And I don't necessarily feel like I'm going to buy into like, oh yeah, get this because this is popular and it's going to make you money later on. But I definitely think about the value and what pieces of art are going to be sustainable for a collector all the time. Because I've seen a lot of people come in and out of this scene. Once they didn't achieve exactly what they were hoping for, they sort of fade out. And so, in any art movement. So I think that it's interesting to be on the other side, on the curation side, and be like, okay. And that's really, sort of, that's more of the business and economic side of it. But so I think it's just being open and being receptive, and also studying what's happening in the traditional art market and art world. I listened to a podcast the other day, and it was telling me something that completely, the art world, I think, is like, the economy of that is like $38 billion is spent on art a year. And of that 38 billion, what is it, 8 billion is made through Instagram, right? Like through Instagram, people meet people, or oops,
That's good.
and meet people, you find collectors or whatever, and I'm like, holy, that is a huge amount of money. And so yeah, it's like, do we necessarily need to go to these art markets and things like that,
Right. So this is my next question,
Yeah.
and it goes along with that. It's like, does visionary art have to get in the big galleries and museums in order to be valued? If enough people, like, sometimes like, are we doing ourselves a disfavor by being in all these music festivals and hippie events, because it looks kind of like rustic, and then it gets that vibe, and people are like, oh no, they're not part of the system? Or that's where we actually reaching more people than the
Right.
people who go to these stuffy galleries,
Right.
that maybe they have money, but fuck the money, we're still going to be doing the art. Like, this whole thing that you just mentioned, some artists come and go, but the real ones are going to keep on
That's
doing
right.
it, money or not,
That's
because
right.
that's what they were born to do.
That's
and
right.
they will persist, and probably those are the ones who will succeed in the end, because like 20-30 years down the line, it's like, he's still going at it, and he's still improving, and he
Right.
will be valued sooner or later
That's
because
right.
of it.
Yeah, because that is your life. That's your legacy. So I don't know. I don't know if I should say it's a disservice to do festivals. Is it a disservice to do a stuffy gallery or an art market, or an art show that's within the LA art scene? I did Freeze in February, Freeze in LA. I was blown away. I was so inspired.
What is Freeze?
I guess they've been doing it for a really long time. It's a lot of like big galleries from all over the world. They come but it's just different.
An art fair.
It's an art fair.
Okay.
But it feels, I don't know. I was really blown away by the quality of the work. I mean, some of the best art that I've seen, and it was visionary, and it was psychedelic, and it was normal, and fabric, and all these different things that were happening in that space. And people come from all over the world for this, and it felt authentic to me. It didn't, because there's other art fairs happening at that time, and I didn't necessarily feel that way about them as I did about this. So if you have an opportunity to ever check that out, I think it was worth it. And
Sounds good.
yeah.
So obviously you like art
Yeah.
other than visionary art.
Yeah.
You like all kinds of art.
Yeah.
What do you feel is more important? Art that has a deep meaning, but perhaps it's not so beautiful? Or art that is beautiful, but perhaps has no meaning? Or do you need both? Or can each one of those three combinations be okay depending on the person? What are you looking for in art? Beauty, meaning, or it has to have both?
I think a lot of times I look at technique. I do look at I look at color. I really look at meaning and the overall vision of what I mean, because a lot of art right now, especially within the visionary scene, does seem like very similar to what someone else is doing. You know, they're inspired by it. Sometimes I'm like, okay, I want to see something a little different. You know, really someone, even if it's not perfect, but I see that the potential in that, but it's their own sort of
Flavor.
their own flavor. I'm like, that's exciting for me. You know, it's okay to learn from people and to imitate their style and to really like be in that space, but there's so much more out there. And so when I see someone really tapping into that and then putting that into like a visionary flair or visionary style, I'm so excited for them and for everyone, because it is easy to just sort of like, oh, that looks like it'll sell. I've got, you know, your standard flower of life and you know, there's all these different sort of components that are just like expected. It's like, oh, you know, and again, things have really shifted in the last few years where people are sort of trying to really emanate their own style, but especially with AI influence, you know, there's all these different things that are kind of coming in. So we're going to see such a shift in the next 6 months, you know, like so much is going to change. So I think I definitely look for meaning and feeling, because I've gone into museums and I'm in a room with a painted black canvas or a painted white canvas or and I don't get that per se, but then doing art history and really trying to figure out this contemporary experience for them, I respect that that was the first one that was created like that. And I think it's important to really document that, because it's just because we might not understand it. Same thing like the art movement now may not understand what we're doing, but they gave us their, you know what I'm saying? We're giving that a chance. So maybe we don't understand certain things that are happening, like smoking bunny or, you know, like just things that I might just think, well, what is this? But it was the first, and we want to honor that too. So
Originality is important.
Yeah.
You know, like Andy Warhol.
Yeah.
Doing soup cans and Brillo boxes. What the fuck?
Right.
Is that art now? Oh, I fucking cracked your head open, and we value that because going against the establishment or the established art world.
Exactly. That was exactly. And so maybe it's not, that's not necessarily what we're doing, but I appreciate someone trying something different. So, and honoring that part. So
yesterday in the artist panel at the opening on Entheon, one of the questions was, what's our point of view on AI art? And we all gave our answers. What's your perspective on AI art? Do you think that's something that is dangerous for normal artists, or it will help us become better, or put us out of jobs, or is it boring? Is it interesting? Does it make that any person who never wanted to put years into learning art can all of a sudden do the best painting in the world? I don't know. What's your point of view?
I mean, I at this point, I'm just kind of sitting back and watching, because I'm so just blown away by the process. At first, I immediately was sort of super turned off, because I was like, whoa, what's going to happen? I have all these friends. I have all these people that this is their life. This is it. Their hands, their creation. But then again, I'm like, but digital artists have been using tools forever, and they didn't paint it with a paintbrush, but they're still artists and they're still painting. And with just because it's a tool, what's the difference? And so I'm not scared of it. It's going to do what it's going to do. And we're just going to keep pushing and keep showcasing the things that we love. And if, you know, I did have a sort of a conflicted thing earlier. I was potentially going to be hired for this job. And they were like, okay, well, we're going to send you a bunch of artists that we want you to put in the show. Coming back full circle, like I'm getting hired. And they just kept sending me these like really well-known AI artists that, and I'm like, okay, cool. So you have like 500,000 followers on Instagram, but all your art is the same, and it's beautiful, but just, you're famous in this realm, but I don't understand it. I don't know what's your vision. Who are you? What do you stand for? What are you doing? Like I don't even know this person behind this creation. Not that I'm saying I need to know every artist and what their story is, but, and they kept sending them to me. And I'm like, man, how am I going to explain this to all of my artists? Like how, like now I have these live artists coming to do this event, and then there's up against this whole printed wall of AI art. And I'm like, I'm not ready for this. I want to slowly integrate this. If somebody, you know, Chris Northern is a person who's, you know, ahead of he's doing all this crazy, you know, work within the AI and plotting and just such, I don't know if you're familiar with Chris Northern.
I know. No.
He also did the Fidelities, and he makes music, and then also he did the hippie watching guide.
Oh, that I know.
Yeah. And he's on the forefront of this whole, you know, everything. I'm just like blown away, and I want to focus on that. You know, Blue Tech. You know, there's all these different artists that are music, and
Even Android is using
Android
it.
for sure. And but that's inevitable. I always knew that would happen for Andrew. I don't know. I think so I'm not going to show this person because I don't know them's work, but I'm going to show Android's because he does. That's a very great. I'm going to really get into that because I've been thinking, like, how is this going to go? Like, I haven't had really to deal with it 100%, but we are going to. Mm-hmm. And I am going to try to figure out how to, because I don't want to make the artists that we choose to work with feel frustrated or not want to work with us because we're changing with the times. I'm not going to always I'm not going to just look for that only, but how do I I don't do that, because that's tricky.
You don't want to pigeonhole yourself like, I only do visionary art.
Yeah, no.
Like, you could do a AI show, you could do a lowbrow
True.
show. You know art.
Yep.
You got taste.
Yep.
It's taste, artistic taste, good artistic taste, something that you can learn in school, or is that something that's born with you? And who is to say what's good taste and what's bad taste?
Yeah, I mean, that's super individualized, and it's really like you can study and you can really become a connoisseur and really, because there's so many things that I didn't know, like little nuances of what blue meant in the Renaissance paintings, or all these things that I'm like, whoa, oh my gosh, like that's the stuff I feel like is missing from sometimes in visionary art. If you're self-taught and you haven't taken the time to learn a little historical aspect of past paintings, and you can sort of see that in different artists' work who have studied or gone to college or university and had, some education behind what it is that they're painting. I don't know if it's like a necessity, but I definitely also see that artists who take the time to study and study and study on their own, you can see a difference in their work, you know?
But even say I went to art school for 7 years and I know the past and I don't want to do what they did, but at least I know what's been done before, and I know what the rules are, and I know how to break them or do them in my own way.
Yeah.
Like my school teachers, or like one of my last college teachers told me, don't use primary colors. That's not cool. That's cheesy. That's bad. And I was like, but that's what I like. So I'm going to do it. And if it's not what you feel is cool, well, too bad, because it makes my heart happy. But there's a large population out there that likes my rainbow palette. And hey, that's who I am for.
Yeah.
And maybe not others. And that's fine.
That's okay.
To each their own.
Totally.
So, we're coming to the end of this conversation. Would you have some final words of wisdom to the different artists that are tuning into this conversation?
Yeah. Don't stop doing art. Practice every day. Get out there and really put your heart into it. And if it's really what you're called to be doing, it's going to happen for you. So just keep at it. I think it's really I'm always constantly you can't just paint every couple days or every week or whatever. You need to do a little bit every day to be constantly improving your skill set. Find a community, find your people so that you can paint with them and stay inspired and have support. That's a huge part of this. It's lonely when you don't have a community out there. And sometimes people alienate themselves, and it's not on purpose because they just don't have their crew. And luckily with the internet, you can find your people really easy. And if, put a call out, you need the crew, they will support you, but you got to let people know. The other thing, I think the biggest thing is don't get discouraged if you don't make it in your dream event. First off, keep applying yourself. And also too, and I think this is the biggest thing I can say to most artists is like, okay, maybe you didn't get into this gallery or this situation, this event, festival or whatever. Volunteer. Go there and offer to help out. I would say a good portion of the people that I have continually helped, they help me. I help them. I want to create, a symbiotic relationship, because this is super hard to do by yourself on all levels. So if we can, offer to hang some lights, offer to work, offer to do something. I'm not saying for free, but like at first, if you're super new at this, then
Get your foot in the door.
That's right. And I think a lot of times people are scared, no. If you offer something, that's going to set you aside than just someone who might feel entitled, or I belong here. My art belongs on your walls. Why aren't you inviting me? 10 years later. Well, what have you done for all of us? So I don't know. I think that's one of my biggest things is so many people might be like, oh, you never, I've been trying so long. I'm like, have you ever just came at me and been like, hey, what can I do to help and make this a stronger experience for everyone? Well, there we go. Let's do it. So that, I think, is my takeaway from this.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jen. I love you.
Yeah.
Woo! And I love you guys. And thank you for tuning in to another week of Chris Dyer's Creative Friends. Please make sure to like, share, comment if you got any comments, subscribe if you're not subscribed yet. And thank you for your support on this humble show. And I'll see you next time. Blessings. Woo! All right. Next episode, Ron English.
Because, surrealism, all those guys knew each other and they drank coffee together or absinthe or whatever but they hung out and they all knew they were challenged and were having a visual and an intellectual dialogue with each other. And that's what all the pop surrealists were doing. And that was the last artist-created art movement. And you might argue that maybe street art is an art movement, but street art's more like a way to disseminate your art. You know what I mean? It's a lot of movements together. I mean, pop surrealism, I'm a pop surrealist street artist in a way.
Right.
But the practice of street art is more the way of disseminating your work to the public, I think.
So please make sure to subscribe, like, comment, and share. Big thanks, and see you next episode. Peace.